You're listening to Wild Things and Wild Places, a Muley Fanatic Foundation podcast that aims to discuss issues and efforts related to the Muley Fanatic Foundation mission, the conservation of mule deer, furthering the sport of hunting, and sound wildlife management.
Everybody knows I'm a Muley Fanatic.
It's time for Wild Things and Wild Places. And here's your guide, Joshua Corsi.
All right, welcome to Wild Things and Wild Places. I'm your host, Joshua Corsi, a Muley Fanatic Foundation production of a new endeavor for us, and this is episode 2 of our podcast efforts to give you, the listener, an insight to the inner workings and just understanding of the Muley Fanatic Foundation and all of the efforts that this organization has taken on over the last 12 years. And so we still have some stuff we wanted to unpack. Joining me this podcast, Joey Fagel, co-founder of the Muley Fanatic Foundation. Hello.
Already in episode 2. Crazy how quickly this goes.
It is, huh? Trying to learn this process has got a little bit of a learning curve for us. Kudos to Shireen. I think it's going smooth, all in all, for something new. Like anything, it just takes time and practice, and a lot of moving parts on the back end of this, isn't there?
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, but I'm sure just a few episodes we'll have this.
Yeah, we'll get better. And please, feedback from anybody that takes a listen. We'd certainly love to hear that as well. But we started with episode 1 talking about kind of the history of where this started, how Joey and I tried to navigate this into what it is today. It did not come with an owner's manual or playbook, so there has been a lot of trial and error and learning curve as well with just the old, you got to do it every day. And we've been doing that now for 12 years, in our 12th year. And so some things that we wanted to talk about, we certainly want to get to deer, and that's the primary purpose of our mission is the conservation of mule deer. And then all of the things that we talked about in episode 1 that go with the love of mule deer and the not only just seeing them in the wild, but also our pursuit of them in the fall and our efforts to hunt and harvest that wonderful and beautiful critter. But there's some other things that we want to talk about specific to the organization before we can get to that. So where do you want to start?
Start from the very top of this organization to where we need a board of directors to help guide us and help us through a lot of some of these things that we're learning about. And that's one important component of this organization is the board of directors. And we have 3 of those local fellows, Will Dolinar, Jason Radakovich, and Reed Clevenger. Man, those guys are fantastic, and it's great to have them on this board because it just helps us out with any questions we may have, and with all their experiences as far as their businesses or part of city council and all that. I mean, it's really important to have that board of directors.
Yeah, they all have a very successful background in their own right. Reed Clevenger, the city manager for the city of Green River. Jason Radakovich, a wealth management advisor, owns his own operation, Full Circle Wealth Strategies. And then, of course, Will Dolinar as well has his own surveying company that's in multiple states that, is a very storied business in itself that his father and family started years ago, and he has taken the helm of that. And I can tell you from my view of our board of directors, which I agree, I think is a stellar board, the right makeup of who we have on that board at this time. But their biggest help was over this last year, the dedication and the time and the planning of this new event that we launched in March of this year, Mule Deer Days. Boy, that year leading up to that and their investment of their time to be a part of that process, not just in advisory, but really intimately involved in the planning aspect of every phase of that and their time. That was huge.
I love how when we put together some ideas in that, they're very supportive of it. Yeah, like you said, their efforts into helping us move that along and make it very successful.
Yeah, the board of directors, essentially that's our boss. That's who we answer to. The decisions that this organization makes, it's not just a Josh and Joey show. There's accountability at every level. And with that, I think one of the other levels that we wanted to get into a little bit more, and we're going to have a podcast specifically just on this, but it is a key component of the organization. It certainly was from the very onset by design. How we get that local difference made in a local area is through chapter efforts, and that's writing for the brand and being ambassadors for the organization in your community and leading a chapter effort at the Muley Fanatic Foundation. At the most, we have had 17 chapters in 7 states. We've had certainly the challenge with chapter efforts is we know from doing it ourselves for 5 years with another organization is volunteer efforts. There's a time frame of how long they can last. I mean, that's a lot to ask of somebody. And there's some chapters that have been around longer than 5 years that have been with us from the beginning, and they're still going strong today, 12 years into it, our Colorado chapters. But that's very unique. And I think that we recognize that that's a lot to put on folks, but the chapters that are organized to make their difference in their backyard, they also have the foresight to be able to get people to step up in various roles of leadership so that that chapter isn't just one and done. That when one person leaves or moves or has a job transfer or as life circumstances come up, that chapter is still able to be withstanding and continue because they've built it as a team.
That's just expected. I mean, folks have families, full-time jobs, and it's a lot of time to put into some of these fundraising events. Along with our chapters, we allow them to also allocate those funds. It's a volunteer effort there too. So you got to figure all these meetings leading up to the fundraising banquet, and then following that fundraising banquet, they have to have meetings to talk about the allocations. It definitely takes a big heart and passion for the organization that you're volunteering for. I mean, rather be Elk Foundation, Mule Deer Foundation, Ducks Unlimited, it takes a really strong heart and passion to really put forth all those volunteer hours to that organization. You know, nowadays, sometimes it's a struggling piece, and we expect that. I mean, like you said, we volunteered and we know the time it takes and hard work. So if someone has to move on and do other things or commit more time to their family, that's number one. Part of it. Yeah, that's number one to that volunteer.
Yeah, the one thing I think that's worth noting in this just unpacking of how our chapters are organized is why we have chapters. And then what makes our chapter model different than others. And, you know, we've advertised it and promoted it. It's been our staple from the beginning that we have a 70-30 model. What does that mean?
After that fundraising banquet, you take all your expenses that you had to take on to make that fundraiser a success. Once you subtract that from the gross amount of money that you raise, you come up with your net. 70% of that net goes back to that chapter to spend locally by that chapter. 30% returns back to headquarters, which will help cover a multiple number of things, staff, utilities, and also one thing different with our headquarters, we also use those funds to help fund other projects as well.
We learned early on, again, knowing that, this didn't come with this owner's manual of this is how you become a successful 501c3 nonprofit mule deer conservation organization. We knew very early on that 4 or 5 years, and fortunately we figured this out prior to COVID, because COVID had some changes. I mean, when your chapter function is essentially hosting an annual fundraising banquet in your community to further the MFF mission at a local level, then that really becomes the primary focus of that chapter's efforts in gathering the stakeholders of their community to support those efforts to further it. And prior to COVID, you would have never thought that we would have reached a point where there was going to be a limitation on being able to allow folks to gather. And so we've talked about this several times, that there's always been this guiding hand of, we know where it comes from in just our faith, but the recognition for us to know that we couldn't become a chapter-dependent organization, that the efforts of the Muley Fanatic Foundation and to make a difference for things that are beyond our own living years, that this organization needed to have a little bit more strength in being able to function. And depending on a chapter part of that to just keep the ship afloat wasn't healthy. There's multiple layers of what allows for this organization to exist beyond the chapter, but the chapter function is really the meat and potatoes of making a difference on the ground, and that's why it's so important.
The chapters know what's in their backyard. Do we know what's going on in northern Utah? Sure, we can take some time, look that up. But those folks that run those chapters know their area. So why not them figure out what to allocate there
and how to
And our people, right? They know their community. They know
How to bring people together to
Yeah.
support this. Yeah, exactly. So the 70-30 model in a nutshell, 70% is retained by the chapters, 30% is sent back to headquarters. Each chapter, not only do they have their annual fundraising banquet, and many of these chapters have the same folks that actually host and put all the effort into having the fundraising banquet. They also sit on their project allocation committee. But each chapter does have a PAC, and that project allocation committee, that effort is a volunteer effort, and it is that committee's responsibility to review project proposal submissions that are local to that area so that these folks that plan this annual fundraising banquet, the next year they're in front of their constituents or their community, they're accountable to how they allocated those funds to further the MFF mission in their backyard. And so that's a big charge for a PAC. And we have some chapters that have members that sit on the PAC, but they're not part of the fundraising committee because they want to be there to support the effort. And I think that's probably another difference that's different about our chapters.
Yeah, it's not just, hey, after you're done with this event, write us a big check to the headquarters, and then we'll let you know what we're going to do with that.
No, that doesn't work.
It just isn't going to work for us. Those guys put all the volunteer hours that we just described, and it is their right to allocate those funds where it needs to be, as long as it fits the mission of the Muley Fanatic Foundation.
Yeah, and like you said, those folks know their area best.
Yep.
Yeah, and we've seen funding from our chapters across the board. There's always a strong emphasis on, as we uncovered in episode 1, there's always a strong emphasis on funding projects that are associated with youth and the furthering of the sport of hunting. But boy, when you get down to landscape level stuff and what the chapters have funded, from cheatgrass treatments to juniper removal to tributary water guzzler projects and restoration of, streams, things that benefit mule deer specifically, the planting of the various shrubs that mule deer need to be able to thrive in their areas of stopover or in their transition from summer range to winter range. I mean, the projects at the landscape level in those specific areas of where we have chapter efforts, that's a big lift. And then beyond that, you add elements of research into the mix, wildlife crossings. The asks are way more than what can ever be fulfilled.
I've seen many chapters have multiple number of applications in for projects, and they have very limited funding. And the nice thing is they put that on the table for next year if it's still available, and it just continues on. And it's really nice to see some of these projects that these chapters fund. I mean, it's not just some ridiculous project. They really put some time and thought into these and really break down each piece for the amount of funds they give to it. I just love to see it. And I think that's why we just got to continue the same type of efforts.
No, I agree. What we have found in our observation of dealing with a multitude of chapters over several years is that the ones that, not that any of them are better than the others. Certainly there are some chapters that, just by the nature of the community that they're in, the population base that they can grab, that they generate more money. And that doesn't necessarily equate to a more productive chapter, because you take a small community like Sundance, they have a great following, and it's a very small community, which is much different than Denver or Greeley or Casper or some of the larger areas. But those folks and their sincere and genuine support of the effort is because they know that they want to play a role in making a difference in their backyard.
Each chapter knows their community, and they know their populations. They know what they can generate. They know where they can find sponsors, supporters, those type of things. I mean, our Cheyenne chapter, they continuously had the same folks year after year, and they raised a lot of funds. And then it came down to, how are they going to strategically get that high net, reduce their expenses. And as time went on, they just improved more and more.
Yeah, they had that dialed in. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so beyond the chapters, because we do want to have some of the leadership of our various chapters that we have seen that have organized themselves in a very successful manner to build a great following in their area for their brand, their impact, their efforts. Beyond that, the 30% that does come back to headquarters, that doesn't just sit in an account by itself. I mean, as Joey had indicated, there are expenses that come with running a business, but headquarters funds a lot of projects as well, which is something that we pride ourselves on. And the way we're able to do that is, how did we become dependent, or not necessarily dependent, I guess would be the right way to say it, on not having to be a chapter-based organization where if we don't have chapters, then the organization folds. And so through grants, memberships, raffles, merchandise, those are all key components that generate revenue for the organization. But in addition to that, and probably it's worth noting because you just got a big shipment of these that you've been spending the last month working on, but our calendar and how we came up with that to offset being a chapter-dependent organization, that's a key component of what keeps this organization alive.
It's a kind of a fun raffle. You get to hang a calendar up on your wall at your office, at your home, on the fridge, and each week there's guns being drawn, and you're looking forward to hopefully be that winner. It's been very successful. Folks continuously, they've been purchasing, some have been purchasing since the beginning, 5 years. It's just been one of those key fundraising pieces to keep us afloat. So, and portions of those funds as well go to other projects. I mean, we have some big projects that we have funded straight from headquarters, and that's a big part of how we did it.
Yeah, there has been a multitude of projects that are research-based that we have expended funds to, millions of dollars. When you look at the history of the allocations of what the Muley Fanatic Foundation has been able to put on the ground, that in 12 years exceeds $7 million with their chapter efforts and headquarter efforts, that's a big number. For a grassroots organization that was started from the ground up, I think that is kudos to everybody who has supported this organization, that they were a part of that at every level.
Absolutely. Just seeing some of those big numbers when we started some of those projects it was a stressful piece. I mean, we're committing $1.3 million to a project? Okay, I hope we get some support with this, and it was amazing. Yeah,
and your reference there is the Deer Project, the Deer Elk Ecology Research Project. We'll have an episode where we talk about that and findings that are continuing to come to this very day from that research. That's been now done, but the crunching of the numbers and the data sets that have been learned from that project, it's been enormous.
Yeah, it's going to be great getting into those projects specifically for a certain episode, and especially that Wyoming Range Mule Deer project. That was from the very beginning.
Yeah, so the calendars, back to that real quick, that is an important thing that's now in its sixth year. $100 a calendar. There's this year, there's 155 firearms on that calendar. That $100 purchase gets you entered into all 155 drawings, so you can win more than once. If you win, you stay in. But we do limit the calendars to 3,500. The new 2024 calendars just arrived. They'll be available for purchase for those that have had a calendar in the past, and only those that have had a calendar in the past, beginning July 10th. And then we'll open that up to everybody else on August 1st. That can then purchase a calendar. But those go quick. It is an important fundraiser, but it's fun, and everybody wants to win. Everybody has a good time when you win, and not everybody can win every year. We know that, and not every raffle can you win. But I think the bigger point that I would like to stress is just our thanks and gratitude for all of the different raffle offerings, whether they've been commissioner licenses or gear and product offerings that we have from vendors that we work with on a regular basis and have relationships with. But even the calendar, just the support, knowing that it really is that idea that a waterfall starts one droplet at a time, and collectively it makes a difference. And $100 is not chump change. I mean, that's a significant decision to be able to put something in with no guarantee that you're going to win, but to do it knowing what you're supporting and then continuing to just do it year after year. And there's a countless number of folks that everything we offer, they support.
Yeah, it's huge.
That's humbling, and we're thankful for that. I think that we should talk about the memberships specifically. That is an important aspect of the organization. That isn't just about dollars. It's about having a number of folks that have pledged their support to be a member of this organization, and how those membership numbers are used in opening doors with partners that we have built over the last 12 years, from firearm manufacturers to hunting gear products, And those companies, that all comes back to people aligning their effort with an organization that has a base that is active and making a difference. And that's why folks align with us.
That's the most common question asked whenever we are communicating with a business, with a agency, whoever it may be. It just seems the common one. How many members you have?
That's your number one question. Yeah, and if you put the hat on their head, I guess, and you look at it, why are they asking that? They want to know, well, what's going to be the benefit for us? If we have the latest and greatest free-to-BD or gadget or whatever it is, and you're wanting to align with us, how much exposure are we going to get by being a partner with you? And so that membership question is important, and I understand it. But we have three very different but very equally important levels of our membership: the annual, the sponsor, and the life membership. And we've had some changes over the years, and what those include, what they entail, how much they cost, when their membership, if it's annual, when it's good, from, to. Yeah, let's start with the annual membership.
That's one membership that's gone up and down quite a bit. We've had it at $35. It's kind of was a common price range for most organizations. We bumped it up to $45, but most of our memberships usually have some incentive or some gift that comes with that. Well, we've learned a lot to where we can up the price or we keep the price the same, but when we want to continue to offer those gifts, that comes with the cost. And at some point, sometimes you're just making pennies off it, and it's not really going to benefit as far as helping raise funds for projects and stuff or keep the headquarters running. Right now, it's at $25, and that's it. You just receive that. We've learned that other organizations have gone down to that too, where it's just $25. You're a member. That keeps our numbers there, and those folks just show their support for a $25 fee.
Yeah, it's amazing how many folks that were annual members those first 5-6 years, where every year we were trying to figure out what's the next gift that comes with this membership, whether it's a Yeti tumbler or a knife or a hat. And then the price point of that item, and then shipping those items. And then finally having a strong enough membership base to be able to poll them and ask, like, hey, this is something that we want to make sure we're doing right for your membership, for your representation. And the amount of feedback that just came back and said, quit sending me trinkets. I'm not becoming a member because I want a hat. I'll buy a hat. I'm not becoming a member because I need another pocket knife. I'm a member because I believe in the mission. I believe in the actions of this organization, and I want to be a member and support it that way. And so when we really looked at having that $25 membership offering that put you in the membership books but didn't come with a trinket, we really weren't sure. I mean, we had some folks that were very vocal about it, that we truly valued their opinion, but it's been a success. People are more interested in seeing the action and the activity and the difference-making efforts of the organization than they are with a hat or a knife or a Yeti tumbler.
Exactly. And
although people still like stickers, they do want a sticker.
Yeah, and that's great because then
right,
they're writing for the brand, so they really want to show that out in their community. And you see a lot of them on vehicles nowadays, and it's great to see folks representing MFF.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is all over. One thing with our sponsor membership that we have learned over this past 12 years is we've always limited it to the 250 first 250 sponsor members. They receive a nice plaque they can display in their office, kind of geared more towards the business, but we have a lot of individual sponsor members. But they've always been entered in for an opportunity to have a 1 in 250 chance to win a Wyoming Game and Fish Commissioner's license. And that certainly is a motivator to want to be a sponsor member. Those are good odds. It's a high-prized item, something that people value greatly. We've seen those costs just continue year after year to rise every year. But sponsor memberships, we've just recently had a change with that.
Yeah, so in the past, we've started that on a November 1st date for all renewals and start promoting that. Well, between the date that we usually draw this commissioner license, which is usually the end of April, folks have purchased sponsor memberships in between that time period. And there's no real benefit as far as winning that commissioner's license. So now we're just doing a full yearly period from time after that drawing of the commissioner's license to the next one in the following year, everyone that purchases a sponsor membership will be entered into that. Now, there's no guarantees we can have that commissioner license every year, but we've been pretty good. That's with our built-in relationship with the commissioners. But we also have expanded on some of these gifts we've given away. We've given away a couple firearms during that time, some other nice prizes, optics. And so that's the benefit of being a sponsor membership, is being able to win some of these great prizes in that, unlike all the like annual membership and life membership. I mean, there's each one of those memberships have their different little incentive, I guess you could say, for being a member in those three. So yeah, the sponsor membership is just real popular with the commissioner license, but it's also gives that business an opportunity to show their support to MFF by displaying that plaque in their business.
I really don't know how to say thanks with what our sponsor membership representation entails, because it's nationwide. I mean, we see sponsor members every year when we have the sponsor membership drive there's no limitation. I mean, from New York to Florida to you name it. I mean, it's across the board.
Yeah, I think there's some plaque in an office in Florida with a deer head on it. It's unbelievable. It is. It's really cool.
And then the life membership, we touched on that. We don't have to go into a whole lot. We touched on it on episode 1, and I don't want to continue to duplicate information, but that from the beginning, we didn't offer that. And we finally, as if you heard on episode 1, we got to that point where we had enough folks that were putting that pressure to create that. And it wouldn't happen if it wasn't for partnership, though. I can tell you that the partnership that we have with KUIU has been the staple behind that life membership offering from day one. They've been big supporters of the organization. They established about the same time we did, and we've kind of been locked in step with them from the onset, and we're grateful for that partnership. But that life membership offering, we did just have a recent email that went out a few weeks ago announcing that there would be a change in the price of the life membership, and that is directly related to the cost of the firearm that is associated with that offering from Weatherby, that they've had a cost of their goods and, just the inflation of the day. And so it has been, and it will be up until September 1st or August 31st. The life membership offering is $1,500, and that includes a KUIU guide jacket that has a life member embroidered logo, a KUIU hat that has also the life member on the crown of the hat, a challenge coin, a certificate, an emblem, a decal, sticker, and then, of course, the Weatherby rifle with 15 different calibers to choose from. But those costs are going up, and we've had to offset that. So beginning September 1st, the cost of our life membership will be $1,750.
We just have to make adjustments just like any other business in this time.
Yeah, and we mentioned KUIU as a solid partner in our life membership offering, but Weatherby has been.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the challenges of distribution after the pandemic, Weatherby and their efforts to try to still meet those orders, and the firearm industry that's a little different than a clothing industry or a gear industry. That firearm industry, they really had a crunch. Distribution was tough. Yeah, we're grateful for them as well. We understand those costs of goods go up, and we've just had to, as you said, adjust accordingly. But the life membership to be almost at $600. One thing I think that's been there from the beginning that maybe folks don't realize, but it's worth mentioning, is the benchmark goals that we have and the incentive that includes all life members.
We pick a number where we want to hit now, just like 600, and when we reach that, we'll draw for that prize. And not only are the new life members included into that drawing, but every life member. So every time we do these benchmarks, every life member will be entered into it. So once we draw 600, we'll pick which benchmark we want next, 625, 650, maybe 700, and we will offer another prize giveaway for that benchmark. It's just another one of those things that our organization offers. We just do little different things. So just like all our other memberships, that's the benefit of being a life member.
Yeah. And those have always been nice because the partners that we have, whether it's Weatherby or Vortex or Maven, KUIU, I mean, the list is many, but all of our partners have been very supportive of that aspect of this offering of our life membership and are eager to always be involved to be able to set those benchmark prizes as something that somebody's going to want, that they're going to, a Swarovski spotting scope and tripod is a pretty nice prize.
Yeah. Yeah. And not only have they offered those type of things, but many of these businesses also offer a discount for our members.
For our life members.
Yes, life members get 50% off some things, or annual members get a certain percentage, sponsor members get, it's not just supported for giving away a prize. They also offer certain discounts for our members.
Yeah, and we're grateful for those partnerships. If there's one key that we have come to know as a truth in the conservation community is that conservation in the 21st century is all about collaboration. Partnerships is the flavor of the day, and that's what makes it work. Everybody having skin in the game, trying to make a difference, doing their part. A big team. Yeah. I think the one thing that goes without saying on this, and we had alluded to it in episode 1, is that we want to talk about the state of deer, but there was a lot of things here that we needed to unpack that are still organizationally rooted. I can tell you that I'm excited about episode 3. We have a great guest that'll be joining us for episode 3, and its timing could not be more perfect, and that is Dr. Kevin Monteith with the University of Wyoming Hobbs School, who has funded a tremendous amount of research. We have funded a lot of Kevin's work. Other organizations, our own state game and fish agency has invested a lot of dollars. And when you Google, just get in your Google search bar and you type leading mule deer scientist and just hit search, that's who comes up. Yep. He has built a reputation that is second to none. He is very decorated in his career. We're lucky to have him in the Cowboy State leading the efforts on mule deer research. And in light of this epic winter and the harsh impact that has truly been, and I think Senator Larry Hicks told me one time on the phone that the only word that he can come up with to describe the impacts, and of course he lives in that southern Carbon County area, Baggs country, catastrophic. And I think that's probably not embellished in the slightest. I think the impact to our deer and our pronghorn populations from this winter have been as severe as any of us alive today has seen. And be able to visit with Dr. Kevin Monteith on our next episode and talk about the current state of deer, things that they have learned, things that they're searching to learn and to figure out, and be able to provide some answers and what direction they are moving forward, and those outside the box things that people want to continue to talk about and maybe are necessitated to being able to make a difference for sustainable mule deer populations. We're going to get into that. So we're excited for that for episode 3.
Yeah, you don't want to miss that. Kevin is, I don't know how to describe him. He's Mr. Mule Deer.
He is. All right, well, that wraps up episode 2, Wild Things and Wild Places. Stay tuned as we're going to have a campfire chat with Chris Steffen. Wild Things and Wild Places, go to our website, muleyfanatic.org, for more information, as we've just covered just a little bit of everything that's available on the website. That is the best source of information, muleyfanatic.org. Until next time, happy trails.
Gathered around the campfire's flickering glow, stories ignited, bridging hearts and minds as the world outside faded and connection reigned supreme. Welcome to Campfire Chats.
Joining us today to talk and celebrate the passion that we share with brothers and sisters, and that is as one that we are proud to be able to call ourselves hunters. And having a hunter join us today, Chris Steffen. Chris, welcome to Campfire Chat.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, so we want to talk about hunting, and we want to talk about you specifically as a hunter. And let's start at the beginning. How long has hunting been a way of life for you?
Well, since I can remember, since I was old enough to grab a 22 or a shotgun. And yeah, I grew up on a farm ranch in northern Wyoming, so my parents gave me pretty much free rein to just grab the pellet gun, grab the 22, grab the shotgun, and kind of go kill stuff. So
that was it. Huh?
That was pretty much it.
That inspired you to take it to where it's at today.
Yeah.
So I've got a question for you, Chris. And each episode of Campfire Chat, we're going to have just a very random set of questions that are really spontaneous. But if you had a dollar figure that you could put on what hunting has cost you, what would that be? Enormous.
It's quality spending in my mind, but yeah, it's
so knowing you,
fairly sizable, I would say.
That's all. You're a gear guy, are you not?
Yeah, I am a big gear guy, and it's all relevant when you add in, trucks. You can't go hunting in a car necessarily.
Sure.
You can't It's all relative to how you do it, I guess. But yeah, I would say it's fairly large.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to say it in case his wife is.
I wouldn't even know.
Andrea's like,
I wouldn't even know.
No idea.
I wouldn't even know what to guess. I really wouldn't.
Yeah. And nor should it matter.
No.
The bottom line is it's something you look forward to every fall. It's something that now with your oldest boy, it's probably changed over the last few years, being able to share the experience with him. What does that mean to you?
Oh, it's totally changed things for me. It's really not about, or it hasn't been about me much the last few years. Kind of all about him and just trying to make sure that he has that passion instilled in him and he wants to do those things and he's having fun and, enjoying the outdoors. So, and it honestly hasn't even bothered me. Pulling the trigger, I'm trying to think, have I pulled the trigger in the last 3 years? Yeah, like once. And it doesn't bother me a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but Easton's been there and you've been right there by his side. And
Yep. And next year, my girls will be old enough to hunt, and they've definitely shown an interest. So I got to get them through hunter's ed, and next year I'll have 3.
Yeah. How will that be going hunting with twin girls?
I don't know.
Have you thought about that?
I'm not real sure how it's going to be hunting with girls. Nothing negative. I'm totally pumped that they want to hunt. But yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Well, I can tell you because I was blessed with 2 daughters. It's amazing is what it is.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, my youngest daughter, she caught the bug and she's never let go of it. It's something that she, even now that she's no longer a resident of the state of Wyoming, she has made it very clear that, Dad, I want to come home. And for her, it's not about pulling the trigger either. It's just, I want to share that time with you in the field. And that's a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yep.
All right. So one dream hunt, and, I think it's worth noting that a few years back, we knew when you got a moose tag and a bighorn sheep tag in the same year, it was quite the dream just in itself. But beyond that, because that's already in the rearview mirror for you, what's the next dream hunt? If you could have a dream hunt, what would that look like?
Well, there'd be a lot of dream hunts. I'd love to sheep hunt again somewhere else, but that's probably not a reality unless I either win the lottery or get real lucky in some kind of drawing or giveaway. So, a realistic hunt, I'd like to go back to Alaska, I think, and hunt Sitka blacktail again. Was something my son and I did 2 years ago, and I'd love to go back and do that again. Maybe Africa at some point in time. I don't know.
Yeah, the Sitka blacktail deer. How did that compare to the big game hunting that you've done on the landscape in Wyoming?
It's totally different. Yeah, Kodiak is such an incredible landscape. I learned very quickly that you just don't navigate everywhere that you think you can like you do here. You can't put on 7, 8, 9 miles necessarily in a day, especially with at the time he was 12, a 12-year-old following behind. Just the terrain and everything is so much different, but it's incredible. It's really cool up there.
How do you define success in your hunt, Chris?
For me now, I think it's just my kids' success, seeing a smile on their face, kind of stressing to them that it's not all about pulling the trigger or letting an arrow go. It's about the whole experience. Of course, when you're 12, 13, 14, my son's 14, he'll be 15 in September, to him, that is success. It's killing stuff.
Yeah. If you don't, it wasn't a good trip, right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily not a good trip, but
yeah,
it lacked the finality of what you set out to do.
Yeah. He gets bummed if we're not seeing things that, he's got licenses for, but at the end of the day for me, and it's really gone full circle. I used to be that way. I'd be bummed and disappointed if I didn't, kill animals but I guess I've just hit that point in my life where now it's just more their enjoyment, just having a fun trip, seeing things, experiencing different things, and just having fun.
How important is the meat to your dietary needs of your household? Is wild game a staple of what's in your freezer on a regular basis?
Yeah. My wife won a half a beef 2 years ago, and we're down to the very end of it. And we didn't kill anything last year, I don't think. Yeah, and we didn't kill anything last year. Had some opportunity and didn't. And my wife gave me a directive for this fall. You better start killing some stuff.
Yeah, keep, huh?
Earn my keep. I think she thinks maybe I'm out there just, basking in the sun of the fall and drinking a cold beverage or two, but it's what we eat. It's not for that half a beef we won or she won. That's like the first beef we've had in the freezer. We rely a lot on elk and antelope if we can draw antelope tags, but and occasionally a deer or two. So,
and you've had a moose, you've had a bighorn sheep.
Yep.
Wasn't that many years ago you had backstraps of mountain lion in your garage?
Yep, I had a stinky mountain lion in my garage.
Yes, and it tasted pretty dang good, huh? The other white meat.
It's the other white meat. Very, very similar to pork, I think. But yeah, it was good.
Bear. You've had bear.
I have bear.
Of all the things that you know now at your age and at your level of experience in taking to the field as a regular annual routine in the fall to hunt and pursue those aspirations, what could you tell yourself if you could go back and tell the younger self what you know now? What have you learned that is different from what you know today compared to when you have an early recognition of young adulthood, maybe not childhood, but as a young adult that was taking up hunting as an activity you were investing into?
I can think back to younger years hunting and maybe holding myself back some, like not going as far as I know I could have, or I don't know about maybe not working as hard as I knew I could have to hunt or be successful hunting, but and then also just not relying on other people. Like if my son doesn't want to go, or if there's other friends or buddies, I'm still going to go. So probably those things are just, maybe pushing yourself a little harder or farther, and don't be so apprehensive about turning back, and I won't say giving up, but just having that confidence or that knowledge to just push past where maybe you would have stopped before, or where I did stop before when I was younger.
Yeah, that's a valuable lesson. What piece of gear, knowing you and being a gear guy and a gadget guy, is there one piece of gear that you wish you would have gotten or had made that investment into long before than when you were able to or had the means to do that?
I've always had issues with my feet. I've definitely learned good boots are invaluable on a hunt. I mean, if you can't get around, you're done.
Right.
If you're working on blistered up heels and whatnot in your feet, you're done. So definitely, I think I've learned the value of having good quality boots. That's probably the main thing.
Yeah. What boots do you support now?
I have been using Crispies for probably about 7 years. Bomb-proof. I love them. I mean, they just fit my feet well.
And what do you wear, Joey?
Crispies
as well. And that's a little different than the custom boots that you were having made a few years back, weren't they?
Yeah, and that was primarily due to some of the issues I have with my heels, and I'm very prone to blistering on my heels. So yeah, I don't even want to go down the road of how much I invested in those boots that are still sitting in my house. I haven't worn, but they don't feel near as good as those Crispies do. I mean, I just don't have problems with them. So,
what about your optics?
Binoculars wise, I've used Mavens for
a few years.
Yeah, probably about 5, 6, 7 years. Love the Maven binoculars. I think they're great. I do have a Swarovski spotting scope that I got a few years ago. It is a big investment, and I use it when I use it, but I don't use them a ton. I probably should use them more. Kind of just depends on maybe what I'm after, and why I'm after it. But yeah, the optics, and then my rifles. When I'm rifle hunting, I've got a wide variety: Leupold, Vortex. I don't have any Maven rifle scopes, but they make a great rifle scope.
Well, let's get to something, Chris, that I've been waiting to hear. And the most memorable, and I know there's many, but if you had to narrow it down to the most memorable hunt that provided significant challenge, what would that be?
So a hunt I've been on that's been the most challenging?
Yeah.
Well, my sheep hunt was guided, and while there was a lot of pressure of having that moose tag that I had the points for, and the sheep tag that I drew on the random was totally a fluke because I have no luck with game and fish. You guys know that. So
Runs in the family.
where I wore it all out in that 2015 year. But anyway, probably that moose, only because I had set the goal to kill it with my bow. I started hunting on the 1st of September, and I killed it with my bow on the 18th of September. And I hunted almost that entire time. Took a few days off here and there in between, but I think it was 16 days of hunting. And I had that pressure to not only kill it with my bow, but I knew I had that sheep hunt coming up right after that. And so that was probably my most memorable. My stepson, Josh Giles, was with me when I killed it. That was awesome having him there. My son, Easton, wasn't quite old enough to go. So it was awesome having him along and just sharing that whole experience. It was a cool hunt.
That was not the same hunt that involved a rollover of the side-by-side, is it?
No.
I just remember in the mental Rolodex, is that Chris in the ER in Kimmer?
I think that was the year after.
Okay.
Yeah, he was with me. And yes, we did have a little rollover accident with the side-by-side.
Having him there on the moose hunt, I'm sure it's probably, it's bigger than an elk.
Yeah.
But then once it's down, it's a beast.
It is.
And to have the additional help to pack that out, could you imagine doing that on your own?
Well, we got really lucky. Found this bull at the top of the mountain, called him all the way to us. I played cat and mouse with him a little while down in the creek bottom, and had given up. We'd gone back to my truck, and we were on a little 2-track, and we were leaving the area, and he came out of the trees right to the 2-track, and I put a small stock on him, shot him, and he literally fell over about 15 yards from the 2-track road. So
you can't say you don't have luck.
No, in the world of moose hunting, I don't think it gets much better. And after we got him broken down some, had 2 friends come by that helped us load it.
Yeah.
So
I can see why that was a great memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a beast of an animal to try to pack that out and try to do that over, 2 or 3 miles. You could see you better pack a lunch.
Oh.
You're going to be in for it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Was the moose good eating?
Oh, it was so good.
Was it?
Yeah. He wasn't a real old bull. I never did get him aged, but I think he's probably 4 or 5 year old bull. And yeah, he was so good.
What's your favorite big game animal to eat?
I think it would be a toss up between that bighorn sheep and antelope.
Antelope, yeah.
Antelope, honestly.
I love antelope.
They get such a bad rap, and it's strictly because people don't take care of the meat the right way. Don't get them field dressed. Don't get it cooled. If you say you don't like antelope, strictly because, in my opinion, because you're not taking care of it the right way.
Yeah, antelope is a great meat.
Oh, yeah.
I would agree with that 100%. Favorite recipe?
I just like throwing stuff on the grill. My only challenge is nobody in my house, except maybe my son, likes things medium rare, bloody, which that's how you have to cook wild game. You can't burn it to a crisp, and my wife and daughter like things done. So when they say, oh, it's kind of tough, I'm like, well, yeah, mine's not. Mine's perfect. So, yeah.
Let's shift. Tag results just came out a few weeks ago. Luck in the draw?
No. Late season cow tags for elk, which is cool. I hadn't put in for that for a number of years, so that was kind of on the directive of my wife saying fill the freezer. So hopefully we can put some elk in the freezer between either our general elk tags or those. But no luck with deer. Kind of swung for the fences because was just given our conditions in the state. Put in for a limited quota area that was really hard to draw. Didn't have any luck there. And then antelope. I was more wanting him to draw one because he's yet to draw a buck antelope tag.
Easton.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you have a 14-year-old who took hunter's ed probably somewhere around the age of 10, getting ready, so knowing when the 12-year mark came that, Dad, I'm ready to go, and still no antelope tag 3 years later. And
yeah, this will be his 4th year hunting, 4th stay, yeah. Which I know people who have gone longer than that without drawing them, but man, and the numbers right now are down a lot. Tags are down a lot, so I understand. It would have been nice for him to get one.
Well, maybe next year. Right?
Yeah.
It's still a great state to hunt, isn't it?
Oh, it's amazing.
It's the best.
Yep. I mean, yeah, it's okay. It's, I wouldn't move to Wyoming just for it, but
I wouldn't tell anyone that it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's all right.
All right, Chris. Well, it's been a pleasure to just visit with you about hunting, something that's worth celebrating. As we know, that's not only a way of life, but it's something that needs protected. It needs celebrated. It needs showcased. It needs talked about. And glad to be able to share in your experiences vicariously through all of the hunting stories that you have had over the years and your time in the field and the opportunities that we've had to share in those experiences together. It's always been a joy to take to the field with you and participate in our youth hunts together. It's something that we value and cherish, and I don't think we probably could say it clear enough, but it truly defines us.
Yeah, it's kind of what I live for all, when I'm not hunting, that's what I'm looking forward to is the next hunt. So,
and it's important to your family, and so I wish you the best of luck in filling your freezer this year, because that is an important aspect of who we are and what we are.
Thank you.
All right, that's another edition of Campfire Chat. We thank you for tagging along with us, and again, allowing the opportunity for Chris Steffen to talk a little bit about his experiences and what hunting means to him and his family. That's Campfire Chat. Until next time, happy trails.